What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more bridges, and we're going back to Vakenatt, 1980/2018, and the next track in the playlist is Soft Rains of April. People will know this is a track that ended up as an a-ha tune on Scoundrel Days, 1986. People will know also, I've mentioned a few times, that album is at the very least a contender for my favorite a-ha album, and at some point I promise I really will do an album video. As I mentioned, even just thinking about Depeche Mode, I realized that type of video will be a much more immersive task than I initially considered. But that aside, I do like the original track, the later a-ha version of this song a great deal. It has an epic drama, it has a sonic majesty to it, it's also a bit down-tempo compared to a lot of their other early stuff. The lyrics speak to this connection which is strong but also distant, and the person feels alone, but they wake up with their mind miles away with this other person, and there's a reference to physical locations, wanting to be back in an earlier location, and so a separation of distance but also feeling, and yet one that is still reaching for that connection. So I love the lyrics, I think it's a very well written tune. And I wonder how different this will be sonically, or perhaps even lyrically. My expectation is that sonically it will be more different, maybe lyrically it'll be very similar to, or at least with some of the main lines. And yeah, I would expect it to have more of a rock sound, but also, given what I've heard about this album, it might still be a bit lighter and more, for lack of a better word, like commercial or mainstream compared to Vakenatt, the song and or the album. Let's hear what I can pick up on a first listen and see just how close it is. This is Bridges, the track is Soft Rains of April, and it's part of their Vakenatt album, which again was recorded in 1980, and I think some tidbits in the year after that, but ultimately only released in 2018.
Rains of April. Talk about it.
1, 2, 3. Anybody on my mind?
possibly a fade out. I feel like the instrumentation actually did finish before the volume fully went to zero. So yeah, it was fading, but I think it did actually come to a definitive ending. And yeah, it's the same thing where Paul's vocals give it a bit different flavor than Morten, a bit deeper, not really like a crooning voice, but certainly a different vocal timbre than the Aha version with Morten on the Vox, but also a bit of that Doors flavor, certainly in the second half of the tune. There was a moment or in the first half where I was like, ooh, this is almost a bit Beatles-like, although the marching type drumming was skewing that a little for me. But it definitely had a couple different flavors, though eventually very much that Doors sound that people have pointed out, and which I've certainly heard going through the first album and now a little bit of the next one. So yeah, it's interesting to know that if this album had come to be, not only may Aha not have come together in the same way that they did, and that would have been a tragedy most certainly, but I would wonder, these songs that show up in Aha's catalog, what kind of legacy they would have without that history that actually took place. So it is interesting to think about, and I am very happy that this album was eventually released, and this is a story that I'm very much just catching up on now. So, but yeah, big shout out to Paul, and I just listened to a Savoy tune where he's going up into the falsetto range, and it's obviously many years later, but then hearing this and that low, like Jim Morrison type delivery, his vocal work I think maybe doesn't get as much credit as it deserves. So shout out to him. There's a moment where the guitar really stood out too. That was fantastic. So I really enjoyed this version. Now, if I had to pick only one version to listen to forever after, I probably would still pick the Aha version, or at least that's my impression after just hearing this. But it is really exciting to hear early renditions of songs which would come to be more world famous through Aha. So yeah, very cool. Let me know what you think of this one. Thank you again to Sophia for providing the Bridges material, and I will see you next time. Peace.